My name is Alexander. I would like to make a post today about how I was managing to test different microservices. In this particular video, I would like to describe why I choose this way and how it benefits me, my team, and how I won a lot of time and achieve consistency with API testing. I just give you an example so you understand. People who heavily involved in automation testing of APIs, they understand without explanation. But just for maybe some people who are new or trying to learn, maybe will be helpful. Companies are moving right now towards, they not now, but they will start moving long time ago, like in 2016, 13, they start moving into microservice architecture when what it means in average, platform could have up to 20, 30 different microservices, even more. And on average, there could be 20 to 30 different endpoints. So if you calculate how many endpoints you have to test, it could be 5, 6, 700 endpoints, I think, on average. So when you test your endpoints, you have to have the metadata for each endpoints to be collected somewhere and be used inside the framework. And now imagine this is like, for example of Swagger API, right? It shows you that you have to store the URL params, you have to have query params, and you have to store body of the request, and you have to do it for every endpoint. So 600-700 endpoints, you have to store them in your maybe external configuration in a JSON YAML schema, or internal configuration is part of framework, or even in simple property files. But they have to be there for you to test. So that would create a lot of maintenance problem and initial effort of storing all of this metadata and maintain it. Something change, especially if it's part of the framework repository, you have to do a code review for all of this. This creates a lot of headache for team. Basically, unnecessary code review and unnecessary maintenance of all of these endpoints. So how this can be achieved without storing any of this metadata, neither in framework or in any other external source configuration? I mean, most of the time the Swagger is a very good tool. It's de facto is a standard to use it right now when you develop your microservices. It allows you to see API definition visually, and also it allows you to store the API definition either in a YAML or JSON format. So, and that actually is the key in automation, to actually not to store anything. We can utilize a JSON or YAML definition inside the test. And that's why I would like to share with you. If you guys create something similar, or you come up with some other ideas, please share in your comments. But this is how I have solved this problem. And I'll show you my property file, and I show how I deal with API from the test point of view. Like when imagine you're a tester, and how would you test, for example? Let me show you first inside the framework. We have a property file for each environment. Yeah, by the way, the property might be also for each environment. And here is my property. So in this case, of course, property will have more stuff, but as far as the Swagger, I don't store any of the information inside the framework, any API definition, except I'm storing a property called Swagger for each environment service API URL, and I store them part of the list. Let's say you have 20 microservices. All you need to do is provide Swagger definition URL for all of your microservices in the same property for each environment. In this case, I would show you, in my case, I have 2 URLs, and that's all you need to do to obtain all the metadata for each endpoint. Let me show how it works. I will start test now in the debugger, and you can see everything from how tester will deal with this problem. Tester needs to define a property, put there all the definitions, a Swagger definition URL per environment inside this property, and now we're going to end up in a test. Once the debugger will stop, I have a breakpoint there. It will move us there. Yeah. Okay. So now imagine this is a test. We would like to add a pet, right? So now we need to get the metadata for this API. And this is exactly happening in this line 53 right now. This line of code will bring us API definition. So to get the API definition, we're using our custom module called Swagger API Resource Filter. The API definition was already created and written in a framework, and make it available from the test. We can get the information using this Swagger API Resource Filter class. So in order to obtain it, we need to get through the provider. Via provider, we are getting all the Swagger definitions. Let me show you. So when the test starts, it obtains, our framework obtains all the Swagger definition for all the URLs which we provide. In our case, we provided 2 URLs. And now that's what we have. We have a list of Swagger descriptors. Since we get 2 URL, we obtain 2 Swagger descriptor objects for each of them. So let's take a look at one. So the API title, that actual API title is a real title, which you can see here. It parses it and obtain it from here. And you can see server URL, it's a base path for the API. It's an API version, and it has a list of Swagger API resources. And this Swagger API resource list is actually a list of all of these pet store endpoints. Now, how can we get, for example, endpoint? Let's say we need to execute endpoint for a post method, which is posting a pet ID. So we need to provide, for example, let me go back. We need to provide a Swagger API name, Swagger Pet Store, which you have here, Swagger Pet Store. That's how we refer to descriptor or to the entire API. And here we need to provide operation or summary. So either you can provide summary, which you can see here. That is a summary. This is a summary, find pet by ID, or you provide operation ID. Operation ID is not visible on Swagger UI. It only exists inside the Swagger JSON API, JSON schema or YAML schema. So in my case, I'm providing operation ID, which is add pet. So if you execute this call, you will obtain pretty much entire minimum information which is required to make an API call. It has operation ID, it has a method post format, and it has a summary. So this can be, this summary add new pet to the store is actually, you can find it right here. So that's how we can obtain the API endpoint. And here we can put any other summary, for example. Let's say find pet by ID. We can type find pet by ID. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And we get the find pet by ID endpoint. So we're going back to the test. This is how we get obtain the Swagger metadata. So here we can just simply continue, and we create, using this object which represents Swagger, we create our own request definition, which is in HTTP request, and this is how we can successfully make a call to a backend and receive a successful response of 200. So this is how we managing our API test automation. It's very good idea to utilize tools like Swagger. It allows you to completely bypass all of the maintenance of the API and store them in a configuration file and maintain them. Feel free to share how you guys doing this, solve this problem, and would be very interesting to know. Thank you for watching. Bye.